Welcome to this episode of CR with Jessica Swanson. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I've had occasion to hear this phrase muttered, shouted, and proselytized from small towns in Iowa to California's urban areas over several decades. I find the utterance curious, but even more so in light of the plurality of points in space and time. I challenge you to go to zappos.com and search for boots. You'll likely find more than 170 pages and 4,000 individual entries. Some are only pretend boots. The 2 boot, New York, clocks in at just under $300. That pair of boots should pull itself up for that price. But they really are only penny loafers. The Rough Wear Grip Tex is a great rugged hiking boot with a durable Velcro strap, if you're a dog. Other options are sort of boots. The Jessica Simpson Brienne is a lovely boot with a 3.5-inch heel. If I could walk in heels that tall, I would totally let someone buy those for me at just under $100. Alas, the Brienne does not come with straps. Then we get to the real boot category. The Tundra Boot Duluth has a strap. They look nice and warm too, but you'll not be pulling these up unless you also know how to tie them. The Timberland Pro Rugmaster 8-inch will probably run a little more than $200, but they seem worth it if you risk cutting your feet off at work. The steel toe and the rigged upper look pretty strong. Like the Brienne though, there's no strap. On the plus side, if I could pull myself up by this pair of boots, I might actually be able to walk in them. Now we have my personal favorite, the Corral boot. Why are they my personal favorite, you ask? Well, the fringe, of course. The only way they could be better is if they came with an electric light show. While these boots do not have a strap either, at least they're short enough that most people could stuff their feet in without much trial and tribulation. However, at nearly $300, they need to come with an electric light show. Jessica Simpson, Duluth, penny loafers, dog boots, all of these have one thing in common with teaching. They're as different as the students that sit before teachers in any class on any day in San Bernardino City Unified School District. If I walk into my boot-wearing 101 class at, say, San Gorgonio High School, a new high school graduation requirement for every California student, with my size 10 corrals for every student in all of my classes, we might have some problems. Some of my students might be humiliated by what I'm trying to teach them with my fringy boots. I do not intend for them to experience demoralization in my class. It just doesn't occur to me that my understanding of fabulous fringe is not shared by everyone. Of course, I know that not all of my students are a size 10 shoe, but we'll be close. The students needing a size 5 can just crumple up some paper and stuff it in the toe of their boots. Those needing a men's 10 can just cut open the toe and let their toes hang out. We can get crafty. Now I'd like you to entertain me just a little longer. Please join me on a journey to what if. What if San Bernardino Unified School District adhered to the proclamation in its mission statement that in this district, we are the leading expert in human learning? What if a renewed commitment to the first part of our district's mission statement meant that children felt safer, could learn more, were self-regulated, and shifted from dependent learners to independent learners? What would that mean for teachers and support staff, including administrators? What if any teacher from any background teaching any subject could become a student ally to this very end? Is this a pipe dream? I think not. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Universal Design for Learning Embedded Culturally Responsive Teaching. That's a mouthful, so let's break it down. Building a culturally responsive school system is a systemic solution to systemic challenges. From launching a new shoe brand, working with the design team, creating a shoe last, assembling, stamping, sewing, decorating, and to the showroom and to Zappos.com, building from the ground up is no easy task. Fortunately for us, we have many elements already in place to be successful in launching UDL embedded CRSs district-wide. We have administrators who can be trained in path goal methodology, highly trained and skilled teachers, excellent support staff, and a diverse population, all housed in physical plants nestled throughout the district. It's half the battle in elevating SBCUSD's education system to one that becomes an equalizing force for the children in our community. According to the National Association for Secondary School Principals, a report in 2019, 47% of the student population in the United States in 2014 were students of color. 19% of children during that same year lived in poverty, and most of those were Black or First People. In addition, students identifying as LGBTQIAPK are growing in number. SBCUSD specifically showed significant diversity during the 2018-2019 school year. The total student population was just over 53,000 students. 27% were English language learners, 11% were designated special education, 89% were socioeconomically disadvantaged. 74% of SBCUSD students were Hispanic, almost 12% were African American, almost 6% were white, 2% Asian, and 6% were designated other. The district did not indicate how many students were male, female, or other, and the district did not provide data for students in the LGBTQIAPK category. Nonetheless, many students fall into numerous categories of diversity simultaneously. Because diversity transcends skin color, the degree of diversity expertise teachers require to be effective classroom leaders can seem daunting. Before anybody panics, let me provide a limited list of what culturally responsive teaching is and is not. And we'll start with the not. CRT is not segregated teaching by gender, race, gender expression, ethnicity, sexual orientation, number of parents, or ACES score. CRT is not a new lesson plan fad. CRT has been around for 30 years. It really gained steam in this country before I graduated from high school. CRT is not going to become less essential in future years. I did the double negative there on purpose. Culturally responsive teaching is the foundation for culturally responsive schools and culturally responsive districts. The very brief primer that follows embodies several principles that are vital to the concept of CRT. So here we go with what CRT is. CRT is a mindset of mindful, reflective teaching that allows a teacher to respond to the needs of their new classroom partner, the student. Affirmative and validating relationships that establish trust and rapport are a vital element of CRT. Hammond argues that these partnerships are as important as the curriculum to lower the brain's affective filters. If you were ever able to learn from the teacher you did not trust, imagine how much more you could have learned if you trusted them. Culturally responsive teachers form learning partnership alliances with students. Having developed trusting relationships with students, teachers have earned the right to become warm demanders. The state of student-teacher relationships allows the teacher to move toward a facilitator role where the student can begin taking on more independent learning roles in their education. Additionally, asset-based feedback, including the assertion that the student is capable of improving, becomes palatable and inspiring for students. CRT continually reframes mindset, ours and theirs. Administrators, teachers, and students learn that mistakes are only a metric of possibility rather than a metric of failure. Students learn to interrupt their biased self-talk, and teachers can learn to do the same. The classroom culture and atmosphere has the potential to launch into its own self-regulated microcosm. CRT works with the biology of the brain's natural neural routines to establish and reinforce learning. Many of us have scratched at the surface in this area already. As we dig deeper and unpack this element to make the cultural connection between culture and neural routines, and specific strategies, mind maps, for example, we can begin to understand that none of this is as mysterious as we may have first thought. In CRT, teachers are automatically assigned full-time co-teachers. Calm down, budgeting department. The teachers' co-teachers are their classrooms. Your classroom feels a certain way to certain students because your classroom begins to develop its own culture as the year progresses. As learning sentient beings, students should have a voice in how that culture develops and grows. In the words of our recently minted president, quote, "Enough of us come together to carry all of us forward," end quote. So what's UDL got to do with it? And I'm not sure how many got to do's we're supposed to go there. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, is a variable curricular blueprint with foundations in neuroscience. The variability focus of UDL manifests in two ways. First, UDL lessons are intentionally designed for learner variability and are inherently inclusive of all classroom learners. This takes the onus of conforming to a specific learning style off of individual students and places it on the teaching blueprint. Second, the UDL blueprint itself is variable to accommodate shifting cultural, economic, and political landscapes. Like CRT, UDL is responsive to students' needs instead of making students responsible to institutional needs. UDL designates 3 neural networks primarily responsible for learning: affective, recognition, and strategic. The affective networks, the why of learning, determine whether the reticular activating system, amygdala, and hippocampus will allow information into the modern parts of the human brain for processing. The recognition networks, the what of learning, decode environmental information for processing. The strategic networks, the how of learning, synthesize environmental data for use. Promoting choice and fostering authenticity in each network adds valence to their utilization. Affective networks draw the learner's attention to the task. I know, you shouldn't have to be an entertainer. But wouldn't it be nice if I was? This would sure be more interesting. But don't worry, teachers don't have to be entertainers to engage the affective networks. Authentic learning tasks, promoting student autonomy through choice, and fostering high expectations that include a belief that the student can do it, CRT, are all part of affective networks. Recognition networks include auditory and visual customizations for different learners' needs, decoding support, and acting as an information tour guide. Strategic networks include providing access to learning tools, gradually grow students' independence in learning tasks, and guided goal setting. Today, I'm your educational sommelier. UDL is the perfect complement to CRT. You might say that if CRT and UDL were boots, it would be perfectly reasonable to wear CRT on one foot and UDL on the other. While we're on the subject of boots, if you're still shopping for boots on Zappos.com, I totally understand, but I'm going to ask you to look away from your shopping cart briefly. Come on back. The students in San Bernardino City Unified School District deserve a district that is the leading expert in human learning for them. We have the opportunity to provide a system of support for administrators, teachers, and support staff that will likely have impacts long into the next phases of our students' lives, creating a pipeline to whatever students choose next. Education can be the great equalizer, but it isn't yet. By shifting our instructional mindset to mitigate and ultimately eliminate lesson design features that contribute to inequity within our classrooms, we can move from participatory classes to engaging learning centers. The way we do it is by designing a malleable system of education that responds according to the needs of our students in our communities. Our students deserve the best education so that they can have a great equalizer at their disposal. Thanks for your time.